Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. I was out in the backyard one summer, clearing out thick weeds along the edge of the woods behind my property. The forest stretched far, a mix of my land and my neighbors, and the area I was working on had grown wild and messy over time. I had been at it for a while, sweat on my forehead, when I heard a noise coming from deeper in the trees. I paused and looked around, thinking it might be a deer or raccoon, but the brush was too dense to see anything clearly. I shook it off and kept working. Not long after, I heard another sound. This time when I looked up, I actually saw something. Or someone. A woman. She was half hidden behind a tree, peeking out at me from the shadows. At first, I couldn't even tell it was a person. I squinted and stepped a little closer, trying to figure out what I was looking at. She didn't move. Just stood there staring. I froze. I didn't recognize her. She wasn't someone from around here, at least not anyone I had ever seen. I backed off slowly and walked toward the open yard again. When I glanced back, she was gone. I called out, asking if anyone was there, but the woods answered with silence. I tried to focus on my work, pushing away the unease creeping up my spine. It was broad daylight, after all. There didn't seem to be a real threat. Maybe she had wandered in by mistake and realized it was private property. That's what I told myself. But later, while working at a different section of the woods, I looked up and saw her again. She was farther back this time, standing among the trees, completely still. Watching me. I called out to her. Asked who she was and what she was doing. No answer. I stepped toward her. The moment I moved, she turned and ran deeper into the woods. My heart was racing now. I had no idea what was going on or why this woman kept coming back. Still, I tried to finish the work I had started. But then I saw her again. She was much closer this time, standing just inside the tree line. And now she was holding something. A thick, solid stick gripped tightly in her hand. It wasn't a branch she picked up by chance. It looked like something she had chosen. Something she meant to use. I asked her what she wanted. She didn't respond. Instead, she started walking toward me. Not slow and cautious, but quick. Determined. That was enough for me. I turned and ran straight for the house. I slammed the door shut and called the police. I watched from the windows, scanning the woods for any sign of her, but she had disappeared again. When the officers arrived, they searched the property thoroughly. No sign of the woman. It was like she had vanished into the forest completely. That was the last time I saw her. But from that day on, I never went back out there alone. The last time I went bowling, something happened that still makes my skin crawl. It was a couple summers ago, and I went with two friends, Ashley and Lizzie, to a bowling alley not far from where I live. Lizzie had won a bunch of free games there, so we figured it'd be a fun and cheap way to spend the night. The place wasn't bad at all. It had an arcade, a bar, and decent food. It was also really busy, nearly every lane was full. Not long after we started, a guy who looked like he worked there came over and asked how things were going. We told him everything was good, and he walked away. About 20 minutes later, he came back and said our lane had been giving people trouble recently. We told him it had been working fine, and he just nodded and reminded us to let him know if anything happened. He came by again a few minutes later, this time asking if we were enjoying ourselves. He was looking directly at me when he asked. It started to feel strange. The alley wasn't the type of place where you get table service or anything fancy. You ordered food at the counter like anywhere else. But this guy kept hovering around us, not checking on other lanes at all. After asking how we were doing yet again, he wanted to know if we had plans later. We said we were just hanging out and might grab something to eat. Then he asked if we were from around here. We explained we were all in college but back home for summer break. He said he was around our age, maybe just a bit older, and started talking about college for a minute before walking off again. The whole thing felt more like he was trying to join our group than doing his job. Later, I walked over to a table behind our lane to grab a drink of water. That same guy was standing there. He told me I was pretty good at bowling and said he had been watching me for a while. Then he asked if I wanted to come bowl again sometime, said we could go for free since he worked there. I tried to be polite, told him I wasn't really into bowling like that, but he kept pushing for a moment until my friends called me over for my turn. I figured that was the end of it. But about 10 minutes later, he showed up again. He walked over like he was just part of our group, totally casual. Then he told us he was getting off work soon and heading to a club nearby. He said the place was hard to get into, but he knew the bouncer and could get us in. We all felt weird about it. We said no, and after that, he finally left us alone. We were almost done anyway, only had a couple games left. When we finished, we returned our shoes at the counter. A different employee was working there. She asked how everything had gone, and Lizzie mentioned that one of the employees had been bothering us all night. The girl looked confused and asked what he looked like. We described him, and she shook her head and said that no one like that worked there. I looked around, trying to spot him. The place was packed, but I saw him sitting alone at a table, sipping a drink and watching me. When we pointed him out, the girl was firm. She said again that she had never seen him before and that he definitely didn't work there. She said she'd go ask him who he was, but we didn't wait around. We left right then. Lizzie drove us to a local restaurant, and we stayed there for a while before heading back. She dropped me off at my house. As I was walking to the front door, I noticed a car coming down the street. It slowed down and pulled over right in front of my house. That was strange enough, but then the window rolled down. It was him. I panicked. I grabbed my keys and tried to unlock the door as fast as I could. Then I heard his car door open. Footsteps followed. He was walking toward me. I could hear him getting closer, but before he got too far, I finally got the door open. I rushed inside and slammed it shut, locking it behind me. I found my parents and told them what was going on. Less than a minute later, we all looked out the front window. He was gone. His car was nowhere in sight. That was the last time I ever saw him. He never came back. But the fact that he had followed us after we left the alley, tracked us across town, and ended up right in front of my house still haunts me. I don't know what he planned to do, and I don't want to think about it. I'm just grateful he didn't get the chance. Back when I was still a teenager, I worked at a Toys R Us. My mom's friend was the manager, and that's how I got hired. It was a decent job. Most days were pretty slow unless it was the weekend. I mostly worked as a cashier, standing at the front and ringing people up while the rest of the store stayed fairly calm. One morning, I had just started my shift, and the place was unusually quiet. I was the only cashier up front, and I think the other employees were in the back, stocking shelves or sorting inventory. It was just another slow start to the day. At one point, a man walked in. Looked normal enough. I saw him for a moment before he disappeared into one of the aisles. Soon after, he came back toward the front and asked where the Hot Wheels were. I gave him directions, but he insisted I show him. I didn't love the idea of leaving the front unattended, but since the store was practically empty, I walked with him to the toy section. When we got there, he started asking a bunch of small questions. I answered a few but let him know I needed to get back to the register. I also told him another employee would probably be around if he needed help. Then I left and returned to the front. Nobody had shown up while I was gone, so I just went back to waiting. A little while passed, and then a woman came up to the register. She looked uneasy and told me that a man had been following her around the store. She described him, and I realized it was the same guy I had helped earlier. She said he kept getting too close and wouldn't leave her alone, even when she asked him directly. Eventually, she threatened to call the police, and only then did he finally back off. She had called the cops just before coming to talk to me. We waited together at the front. While standing there, I saw the man again. He was trying to leave the store quietly, sneaking past the aisles. The police arrived not long after, and we both told them what happened. Since the man had already left, they couldn't do much except take a report and go. Things went back to normal for the rest of the afternoon. The store got busier, and another cashier joined me up front. The hours passed, and eventually it got late. Before closing time, the place quieted down again, and I was back to being the only person up front. It was during that calm moment when I saw the same man walk back into the store. My stomach dropped. He looked right at me and started walking in my direction. I didn't know whether to call the police again or wait and see what he'd do. He walked straight up and asked me how much longer I'd be working. I told him I was there until close, trying to keep my voice steady. He kept asking more questions, one after another, and before I could say much else, a coworker walked up from one of the aisles. The moment he saw her, the man turned and sprinted down another aisle. She recognized him immediately and ran after him without hesitation. I picked up the phone and called the police again. When my coworker came back, she told me she hadn't seen him leave. That could only mean one thing. He was hiding somewhere inside the store. The police arrived fast, and we told them what happened. They began searching the building, and within minutes, they found the man hiding in an area meant only for employees. He was escorted out of the store and officially banned. Out of everything that happened during my time there, that was easily the creepiest. I still wonder what might have happened if my coworker hadn't walked up when she did. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.